Hello everyone. Well, spring is here and I love to celebrate with some of my favorite desserts, including this lemon berry meringue tort. Oh, it is spectacular. I know my mom loves it, so I'm making plans for Mother's Day. It's also perfect as a birthday cake or basically any springtime celebration. First, I'm going to start by making the meringue layers. Before I whip a single egg white, I actually want to grind my granulated sugar. So I've already measured it by weight, and I'm going to put this in a chopper and essentially make my own superfine sugar. The reason I do this when I'm making a French meringue is so that the sugar, being ground a little finer, dissolves easily into the egg whites. You can do this in a food processor or blender, or you can also buy superfine sugar. This is a 3-layer meringue tort, and so it takes 6 egg whites. I'll separate my eggs, and I want to save 3 of the yolks because I'm going to use that for the lemon curd portion. I've immersed my eggs in hot tap water. That way it warms them up. Warm egg whites whip to a fuller volume, but also, again, it helps all that sugar dissolve. Before you start whipping, add your teaspoon of cream of tartar, which is acidic, and that too helps the proteins in the egg whites to stretch to their fullest volume. That's why you add it at the very beginning. Once you see those egg whites get frothy, that's when you start adding your sugar, a little at a time. The great thing about a French meringue, simply egg whites whipped with sugar, with this quantity of sugar, essentially 50 grams per egg white, it is virtually impossible to over whip your egg whites. So when in doubt, just keep whipping. You can see the meringue's nice and glossy, and looking for that stiff peak. This is still a bit soft, so I'm going to let it go a minute more. Ooh, there we go, perfect. A well-whipped French meringue actually has a density to it. Once you've finished whipping your French meringue to a stiff peak, it is not fragile at all. So when you add your remaining ingredients, just a touch of cornstarch and a little vinegar or lemon juice, you don't have to worry when you whisk those in. I just use the beater of the mixer. You can use your electric beaters or you can fold it in. Look at how thick, but yet airy that meringue is. I love it. That addition of cornstarch and lemon juice is a similar addition to when you make a pavlova. It's a smaller volume. What I want to do is create a slightly softer center to my meringue layers with a crunchy exterior. I find when you stack those layers between the cream and the lemon curd and the berries, they hold their structure. If I were to not include those ingredients, I'd get a crunchy meringue that would actually break and shatter too easily. I dollop the meringue into the center of each of the 3 circles. The nice thing about this dessert is you can prepare this meringue a full day ahead, even 2 days ahead of time. I try and keep my spatula in contact with the meringue and just push it, coax it. Just coax it to the edge of your circles The meringues will expand as they bake. So ultimately, while 8-inch circles now, the torte will end up being about 9 inches across. There we go, these are ready for the oven. Now the key to a well-baked meringue is to give it lots of time at low temperature. I've preheated my oven to 250 Fahrenheit. If you have the option to not have your fan running on your oven, make sure it's off. That way you won't promote any browning or color. We want to keep these as pristine as they can. And they take 2 hours, even 2.5 hours. Don't rush the process. If you find you're starting to get a little color on your meringues, what you can do is crack open the oven door, let some of the heat escape, and then continue baking. It's more about drying out the meringues as opposed to baking them. While those meringue layers bake, I can make the lemon curd because that too needs time to cook and then chill. For years, I would make a lemon curd, which is essentially a lemon custard in a bain-marie. So in a pot with a bowl placed on top, gently simmering water, and I would whisk it, and it would take a long time to cook. Now I've realized you can cook it stovetop over medium heat, but it can take the direct heat because of the acidity of the lemon juice. So I'll start by whisking my sugar and lemon juice and a little bit of cornstarch together. Let's get that cornstarch dissolved in there. Now I can add my lemon zest, a good tablespoon. We really want to bring out the lemon flavor. This is going to get dolloped along with whipped cream on top of each meringue layer, then sprinkled with berries, and just that combination of creaminess, tanginess, and then the fruit. It just sings of springtime. Here are my 3 egg yolks that I saved from the meringue. I'll add those. And 1 whole egg. Really, the lemon color you see in lemon curd comes from the egg yolks, not the lemon juice. And before I go to the stove with this, I'll measure in my butter. (115 grams). And I'm just cutting the butter right into the pot. So as the lemon curd liquid starts to heat up, the butter will melt and become a part of that tangy custard. Take this over to the stove. And when you're cooking a lemon curd, you don't have to stir it constantly. In the beginning, you can just get it going on medium heat. Because that lemon curd will be so hot coming off of the stove, I like to cool it down right away by having sour cream ready in my bowl when I strain the lemon curd. That immediately helps to cool it down, stop the cooking, and also adds another delicious creamy tang. So it's half a cup of butter and a 1/4 cup of sour cream. And I'll just have that ready with my strainer for when the lemon curd comes off the heat. Now that my butter has melted and I can see steam coming up from the lemon curd, I know it's time to stay with it and keep whisking. Unlike a pastry cream, a lemon curd doesn't visibly thicken because, of course, the butter is melted. Once you chill the lemon curd, well, the butter sets up again. So I am looking for a little bit of thickening and just a hint of bubbles beginning. That way I know it's not reaching a full boil, but close to it. Activating the cornstarch, but not overcooking the eggs. Now I'm ready to strain the lemon curd. Always a good habit. It also gets those little pieces of lemon zest, so you don't have that interfering with the creamy texture of the lemon curd. And I'll whisk in that sour cream, which dissolves into the curd. I should point out, this recipe makes more lemon curd than you will likely use when assembling your torte, but it keeps in the refrigerator for at least 10 days. And just to serve lemon curd with fresh berries in the springtime, delicious all on its own. There we go. I'll transfer this to a dish. Now I want to let the lemon curd cool to room temperature, and then I'll cover it and chill it until set. So just like the meringue layers, you can make this a full day ahead. All right, now it's time to assemble this wonderful torte. I've got my lemon curd, which is set up completely, and my meringue layers, expanded a little bit, but they're nicely set on the outside. And when it's time to assemble, that's when you whip your cream. Give this a little shake. So where egg whites benefit from being at room temperature or even warm, you want your cream to be ice cold, right from the fridge. But you know, I don't bother chilling my bowl or going to any extremes like that. I don't find I need to. Did you know when you're whipping cream, or even egg whites for that matter, you don't have to whip them on high speed? When you whip on one speed less than high, it buys you a little time. So if you're gathering your ingredients, not standing over the mixer, it allows you more time to reach that perfect peak without overdoing it. One ingredient I'm going to add before the cream is fully whipped is some instant skim milk powder. Now this is optional, but what this is milk protein, and this helps stabilize your whipped cream so that it holds its shape and volume and doesn't weep when you put your torte in the fridge. Now I'll add in just a little bit of icing sugar and a splash of vanilla. So with the skim milk powder, you can even whip your cream ahead of time and leave it in the fridge. You can assemble this torte a couple hours ahead of time. It doesn't have to be assembled last minute, but definitely day of. I know I've said that before, but it's probably worth repeating, just so you time things right. All right, this is the fun part. I'll start with my light as air meringue layer. I start with about a third of the cream. Spread that over the meringue. Give my lemon curd a little stir, and I just dollop it. Just give it a little swirl through the cream. So you don't need to blend the two. Just make sure the lemon curd reaches every part of the layer so that every bite has a little bit of that tanginess. And now I've got a mix of raspberries, blueberries, blackberries. You could use cut up strawberries if you wish. Whatever is to your liking, just go for the color. Here we go. If you can get your hands on some edible flowers, that really just adds the finishing spring touch. What a fantastic torte between the crisp yet soft meringue layers, the cream, that tart lemon curd, the fresh berries. top it all off with the pansies. I'd say this is a brunchable torte. You know what this torte reminds me a little bit of is Eton mess. That meringue dessert, baked meringue stirred into whipped cream with fresh strawberries, except this is taken to a whole new level. Well, in fact, 3 new levels. Oh, and don't forget, this dessert is gluten-free. Oh, I get that whisper of tart lemon. You get the outside crunch of the meringue, but the somewhat soft inside. This truly is one of my springtime favorites, and soon I hope it will become one of yours. Join me again for another episode of Anna's Spring Favorites.